Our financial systems are decades old. According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
The Pentagon has secured a $630 billion budget for next year, even though it's failed to even account for the money it's received since 1996. A whopping $6.5 trillion of taxpayer cash have gone to defense programs, none of which has been audited. And this black budget has sparked concerns over political fraud.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Look, it's pretty simple if you think about it. To control the population, you have to control the people messaging the population. Some of these stars have 20, 30 million followers. That's more followers than CNN, Fox, ABC, NBC. These people have to be controlled. They can't just go off a message and start saying whatever they want to say. They have to be somewhat reined in. They have to be controlled, or they do not get the platform to have the voice that they have.
Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
You're looking like a bloated transvestite Wonder Woman, ready to fight crime. Pew, 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 pew.
I eat children. How old are you?
12.
Oh, okay. Only to 10.
Only okay, that's good.
We're safe. Yes. That's good. Children and pineapple.
Children and pineapple.
12.
Oh, okay. Only to 10.
Only to 10. That's good.
We're safe.
Yes.
That's good.
It's time to take the chains off your brain so you don't remain insane on this infinite plane or this terrestrial plane that we are existing in this realm, like the True Man Show, 1984, Minority Report, The Matrix, and they live all rolled into one. And you're living in it and you're witnessing it. And maybe everything is a complete and total reflection of consciousness. Because as you see the madness and insanity unfolding right in front of your eyes, where reality is truly inverted, when you look at the complete inability for most individuals to use logic in a rational way, and when you look at the inability of most to be in touch with innate human emotions like compassion, empathy, sympathy, kindness, generosity, humility, courtesy, unselfishness, good-temperedness, sincerity, it's almost non-existent, because we live in a paradigm that is fueling the evil wolf. And if you look at the chapter in the book, I think it's 2, number 2 is abracadabra, which is I will create as I speak, or I create what I speak. And that has roots all the way back to ancient Egyptian and Hebrew. It's an incantation. It's not a mystery why when Mickey is wearing the sorcerer's hat, he uses an incantation to create with his words by casting a spell, which is why they call it spelling. And he says, abracadabra, I will create as I speak. I will create what I speak. And how much proof do we need through quantum physics that our thoughts are literally creating reality? And the problem with quantum physics in the microcosm, which is your own life, is that we have all been turned off by things like The Secret and the law of attraction and all of this kind of stuff, where people, typically lazy people that would have a hard time pushing a lawnmower around for a couple hours, are using the power of their intention to manifest a bunch of material bullshit into their life that is going to lead to temporary satisfaction and not long-term intrinsic happiness. So that turns everybody off to quantum physics. And I also think that societally, there is such a negative connotation with prosperity. Most people have a poverty consciousness because there is an underlying dogma that penance is piety. Penance is not piety. And look up penance. You're not supposed to live like, what do they call it? Sackcloth and ashes. You're not supposed to live like a peasant to be spiritual. And there's so many people in the quote unquote new age community or yoga community that have such an aversion to money. We all know it's fake. We all know that the Federal Reserve is not even an arm of the government. It's a private banking cartel that has a magical machine that can print unlimited monopoly money that they can just give to their friends. And then the friends can loan 100 to 1 on the money and charge you interest. And then those are the people that are running the show. And those are the people behind that one gate that has to do with a certain type of food that is typically delivered to your home, but is actually code for something very depraved and perverse. And it is linked to every big name you've ever heard of in your life in every single industry, Hollywood, sports, the government, unfortunately, different agencies and arms of the government that are supposed to be looking out for you and protecting you, and especially protecting our children, are the ones who are profiting from the depravity. And we are going to set an intention. And why would you not meditate on this? You say, well, what can I do about it? Well, have you looked up coherence creation or super radiance? There is a collective effect, a palpable and measurable collective effect of a group of trained meditators focused on one subject and creating super radiance, which is an energetic frequency that travels through the ether that uplifts the entire field of consciousness. So you're a beacon and an antenna. And however you decide to fuel this vehicle, you can use this thing as a creative mechanism to completely shift and change and mold the reality around you in the microcosm. And through synchronicity, as it unfolds and can snowball into days and weeks of all of this amazing stuff happening. And there are times that you have to reel yourself back in from the verge of pathological mania, because synchronicity is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. It's like catching a perfect wave and you're in the barrel and it's a beautiful, perfect day, super glassy, and you are just in there. You're in the pink and you're getting barreled and you're in the moment and it just flows like a wave. And then you get out of that wave and you paddle back out and you sit there and it's like every single set that hits, you get a perfect wave and you think about nothing. You think about nothing. You feel the movement of the ocean. You are with the ocean. You are one with it. You see a dolphin swim by, or maybe a pod of dolphins swim by. You see the reflection of the sunlight with linear perspective, and you sit in awe about the mystery of this true man show that we are all waking up in. And you better get this thing prepared, because psychologically and energetically and karmically, and when you look at the human energy meridian system, we have been lied to for a reason. Because especially when you look at fueling this vehicle, if you have 100 trillion cells and every single one of those cells requires mineral transport in order to fuel the mitochondria, and only a certain type of water facilitates efficient mineral transport, and of course that is distilled. And when all of the positively charged inorganic compounds are leached out of the body through a process called adsorption, with a D, adsorption, not absorption, it's the opposite. It leaches it out of the body, similar to ingesting charcoal. Charcoal causes adsorption, which is why if somebody ODs, pump the stomach, give them charcoal to leach the poisons out of the body. When we begin to get rid of the toxicity and we begin to reawaken the energy meridian system, everything begins to work differently. And then you go down the path of getting more control over the mind, and you begin to separate between the incessant repetitive playlist of the monkey mind and the more centered, focused, aware, and peaceful presence that has the ability to observe the monkey mind in action and disidentify from it and recontextualize what that is. It's an autonomous thinking program that was probably hacked hundreds of thousands of years ago by advanced intelligence to create a slave race where if you could implant a negative autonomous thinking program within that entity, you would have total control over it because it would never break free of its own mind. Your slave would be a slave to itself. And that is the perfect slave. It requires no master. So if your mind can be hacked, and someone put that program in there collectively a long time ago, and they created a subconscious aversion to prosperity and money and success and good fortune and happiness and joy and laughter and peace and harmony and gratitude and good fortune. Did I say good fortune twice? Because you deserve it. And until you truly own it and you respect the vehicle enough to show infinite intelligence or grandmother spirit, because the Native Americans believed, whether you want to call it Pachamama or the grandmother spirit of this realm, sees it and knows it. And then you go down the road of the entheogens, and then it's an entirely different experience, because that's when the teachers show up. When you're ready. When the student is ready, the master appears. And the master is this realm, and it can communicate with you. And that's why something as simple as earthing, just removing the insulation between this bioelectrical machine and a grounding surface called dirt or grass, or most concrete, not asphalt, but dirt or grass primarily, you're discharging positively charged electrons that also turn into free radicals. So if you don't have your electrical panel grounded, you're going to short circuit electrically and electrochemically. And then you talk about all the various dysfunctions. So when you actually do the steps in the manual, the Unchained Life Manual, it's available in paperback and Kindle. And I spent over $4,000 on illustrations because I think in this day and age, people learn more from memes and illustrations rather than reading a highly scientific, very dry, and extensively deep book where we could simplify it and turn it into easy to do modalities and biohacks and different steps that you can do in the privacy of your own home. And especially in this new weird world we're all witnessing unfold, nobody's really going to the gym anymore. Some people are going to, but what are you going to do? Go to a gym and be in a little plexiglass box because of imaginary COVID? Is that what's going on? And it's not imaginary, because if you're in an old age home and your Democratic governor transfers COVID patients to the old age home, you're probably going to die. And that happened in multiple cases. I don't know if you saw the letter that Scalise had sent out, but he sent this letter out trying to figure out, why did these governors intentionally send people to the nursing homes? Do you think it was to boost the death statistics? Why are hospitals supposedly getting $19,000 just to diagnose somebody with COVID, $38,000 to put them on a ventilator, and another $19,000 to state that COVID was the cause of death? So what's really going on? You tell me. You can figure it out. It's not that hard to understand. Watch They Live. Rowdy Roddy Piper said it was a documentary. You're seeing it in real time. And what I think is that these demons are getting ready to scatter because maybe the energetic frequency of the collective is getting to a point where they just can't handle it, and people are seeing through the veil of deception. Maybe people are just, maybe we are all making a shift collectively or energetically and karmically, and this is when you really need to fuel up, and you need to understand that, you were told that you're only supposed to take 800 international units of vitamin D for a reason. You were told to stay away from iodine. You were told that bromine is no big deal. Just go ahead and, bromine's great, and fluoride's good for your teeth. And don't worry that we used to use it for rat poison. It's no big deal. It's not don't worry that it's a neurotoxin. It's going to be good for your teeth. And don't worry that there's a dental condition called dental fluorosis, which is the degradation of tooth enamel and the gum line or the jawline, complete and total degradation. Like, we're talking about like somebody drank hydrochloric acid and it's just eating away their jaw and their teeth. That's from fluoride. And you look at that's the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. In Experiment America, you can get food at any supermarket that is filled with neurotoxins and endocrine disrupting chemicals that are banned in 98% of Europe, including water fluoridation. So, and then you tell me why in Experiment America, big companies are paying to prevent the labeling of GMO foods. Don't worry, GMOs are safe, but we don't want you to know it's in there. Trust us, we have you covered, because we own the seed company and we own the pharmaceutical company that makes the magic pill to make you better when you get sick from eating the food that we grow after we genetically modify the seed. That's the world you're living in, and you don't have to live in it, because the reality is when you drink distilled water, you are getting rid of all of the positively charged inorganic compounds that don't need to be in this machine. And then when you're taking fulvic minerals, you're fueling yourself on a cellular level. You're fueling your mitochondria, and you're assisting with the process of mineral transport with the consumption of distilled water. Just that in itself, if you started taking fulvic minerals 3 times a day, a good fulvic mineral supplement, a quality one like Optimally Organics, who really should be sponsoring this, because I go through so much of that, because it is literally, it's jet fuel. It is jet fuel for this vehicle. And it's so funny how, especially if you have a background in strength training, bodybuilding, weightlifting, you always want to go for the hormone modulators, like whatever I can do to jack up the test is what I want to do. But when you start with the foundation, which is the minerals at a cellular level, you're building a much more solid foundation where you have more energy, you have more endurance, you heal quicker, you stay fuller, you don't have drops in your energy at all. Joint pain goes away, metabolism goes up, body temperature increases, sex drive increases, confidence, energy, optimism, quality sleep, oxygenation, recovery. It's amazing. And then if you take it a step further and add a half a teaspoon of baking soda every time, well, you could do that once or twice a day, but typically a half teaspoon a day will do the trick, alkalizing the body. Just consumption of baking soda can boost testosterone. And then just remember, avoiding iodine. I mean, iodine, the thyroid is essentially locked up in most people because it's full of fluoride and bromine, because fluoride and bromine compete with iodine for absorption in the thyroid, ovaries, testes, and other internal organs. And so when the body is off kilter, there's always an iodine connection. There's always an iodine connection. When you look at the history of iodine, I mean, it's magic medicine. It's magic medicine. And of course, we know why it's not promoted. Iodine can cure and fix and mitigate so many different things. It truly is magic, but you better prepare yourself before you go down the road of iodine supplementation. You got to read that book by Dr. Brownstein, Iodine, Why You Need It, Why You Can't Live Without It. You have to read that. It's basically essential if you're going to start taking iodine, because some crazy stuff can happen when you start detoxing the fluoride and the bromine. Crazy stuff, schizophrenic-like symptoms, depression, mania, anxiety, night sweats, heart palpitations. Look up the toxicity symptoms of bromine and fluoride detox, and it's crazy, and you will experience it when you start supplementing with iodine. And you got to do it intelligently. You need to take it with selenium, you need to take it with vitamin C, B complex, zinc, and what was the other one? What am I forgetting? Oh yeah, the salt, real salt, like Redmond real salt, that really good sea salt. You're supposed to take a half teaspoon at a time or a quarter teaspoon at a time, multiple times a day, to flush out the bromine and the fluoride, because apparently the bromine, as the iodine flushes it out, the salt consumption has something to do. I don't know if salt is also a halide. I don't even really understand exactly what a toxic metal halide is, but they say that it has an affinity for that gland or multiple glands and organs in the body, and that salt assists the body in detoxing it. And without that, you can have some pretty bad reactions when the bromine levels in the blood get too high. So don't just buy your iodine and start taking it. You definitely want to buy that book, and you definitely want to do the iodine loading test. So yeah, and if you haven't got a copy of the Unchained Life Manual, it is the absolute perfect thing in the world to do during COVID, because not only will it change your life and help you feel better, it's just going to make you more successful, because when you start feeling better, everything is going to work right in your life. And it's sort of a how-to manual. It's an instruction manual, and it just makes all these biohacks easy. And it's almost like you're just getting upgraded to deal with the energetic frequency of this new reality that's unfolding in front of our eyes. That's exactly what it is. All right. That was like lightning. And you know, one more thing about being on this program, it's like neurogenesis is a real thing. Neurogenesis is an actual real thing. And you start to develop an ability to where word recall is facilitated at a much more rapid pace, where you're speaking and you're searching for a word, and instead of getting hung up or saying or stuttering or stammering, it just flows. It's like being on that wave. It's being on that wave, and it's synchronicity. And I think that that has to do with alkalinity. It has to do with oxygen. It has to do with self-talk. It has to do with grounding and sun exposure, and, you know, really just having a conscious approach to everything that you're doing. And the word mindful is so cliche, but what it is just more awareness. It's more awareness in every conversation you have, in every task that you do for your job, and all the time that you spend with your wife or your kids, time that you spend with yourself, self-improvement, physical fitness, reading, writing, speaking, creative endeavors. So you're balancing out both hemispheres, and also pushing yourself and training hard. So you're balancing the yin with the yang, and you can walk that middle line without too much extremes on either side, and maintaining a more neutral approach to the path, which is more non-attachment. It's not detachment or apathy. Non-attachment is just letting things be and creating the intention within that everything is going to unfold with absolute perfection. And you're trusting that there is some sort of invisible, universal, and palpable energy that is permeating through the ether and making all of this magic work. How does that ball of fire just sit in the sky and cruise around with absolute perfection? You know, how does that illuminated object in the night sky that we like to call a rock, where rocks don't ever reflect light anywhere in nature unless Maybe you have a waterfall going down one and you have a wet rock that's reflecting a little bit of sunlight, but no rock in nature is going to be illuminated like a sphere or a disc or some sort of round object that is the exact same size as the fireball that just chases it around the sky in this yin and yang dance with the wheel in the sky turning above. And a whole world of mystery and wonder that we've been lied to from the time we were 5, when we all thought that we saw, and what was I, 7 or 8 when the Challenger supposedly exploded. And they're not going back to the moon. They're not going back to the moon. They used a rotary phone to call the moon in 1969, and now we have little supercomputers that are called iPhones and all these other smartphones that are more powerful than huge buildings in the 1960s. But we can't go back to the moon because we intentionally destroyed 13,000 pages of telemetry data because we had to. But now we're going to go to Mars. And NASA has said publicly about 20 times that we can only reach low Earth orbit. And I think Mars, if it was really out there where they say it is, but it's not, it's going to be a little further than 250 miles. But don't worry, because the gold-colored tinfoil will totally protect you from the Van Allen radiation belts, which is most likely the firmament. And please remember that in Armenian culture, they believe that the founder of the Armenian nation was a giant by the name of Hayek, who was 18 feet tall and entered Earth through a gateway in the firmament. Marinate on that one for a while, my friends. Thanks for stopping by to take the chains off your brain. I hope you don't remain insane on this infinite plane, because I'm not anymore. Adios, amigos.